A big round of applause for Skylar, a fishbowl teller. A little bit, oh, I'm short.
Oh, well, I don't know. A little bit higher, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really annoying and say that sea urchin was probably Diadema antillarum, because I'm a marine biologist and I know those things. There's my academic moment for the evening. Yeah, you can look it up. Diadema. So, because I'm a marine biologist, sometimes my friends hire me for things, and I have these friends, Candace and Dennis, who own a Windjammer up in Camden, Maine, Midcoast, Maine. And they asked me to be their naturalist for this week-long trip. There has to be a naturalist and a historian. And Sunday night is the orientation. I'm in a rush from Boston, stuck in traffic. I finally get there, and I hop on the deck, and Dennis says, you know, you've done the SEA sailing program. And I was like, yeah. It was a very oddly specific thing about my undergrad history. And then he's like, and you do marine ecology. And I was like, that's why you hired me for this trip, Dennis. And he was like, you have the same background as Tom. Tom's single. You should date Tom. And I was like, who the hell is Tom? And he's like, Tom's our first mate. And then 5 seconds later, Tom, like this handsome, you know, dirty T-shirt, rugged sailor guy, hops up on deck and he's like, hi, I'm Tom, as if like in a sitcom. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And for context, I'd just broken up with someone like 3 or 4 months prior, and I was enjoying my single life of like spending July 4th by myself, watching all the Twilight movies by myself with my dog, drunk, crying. You know, I was but I wasn't really looking to date anyone. But from like the first moment I got on this boat, everyone's like, you should date Tom. What about Tom? Well, Tom was recently divorced, and also he was very attractive, physically attractive. So I was like, oh, if he's physically attractive and works on a boat and recently divorced, like, he's probably a douchebag. But then the next day, like, Tom and I talk, and we have all these things in common because he used to be a marine biologist. We had been to a lot of the same places in, like, the remote wilderness of Alaska. One of my best friends from grad school, he used to bike with to work when they were at UC Santa Barbara together. And I was like, he's smart and interesting, and but he's probably even more of a douchebag. But I was like, okay, he's interesting. Maybe he'll come play cards tonight, because I wanted to play cards and drink scotch with Dennis. Dennis is a good friend of mine. And because the captain said it was okay, I did it with the crew. But the first night, like, I went to the forecastle, that's where the crew sleeps, and Tom was there playing his little bagpipes. I was like, oh, this amazing man also plays bagpipes. And he was like, oh, I'm going to practice my pipes for a while. But the thing is he was like half naked. And I was like, and inside I was like, wow. But outside I was like, hey, Tom, do you like want to go play cards? He's like, oh, I'm practicing. So first night was kind of a bust, although then I started hearing classical piano from the parlor. And they're like, oh, it's just Tom. And I was like, oh, it's just Tom. And so I'm like adding to the list. Is like, who'd be interested in me? But then, and then the next day, like, one of the crew members is like, this guy Hoppy, that was his last name. He's like, my girlfriend and I have a lot in common. And I think the foundation of good relationships are having things in common. And then 20 minutes later, be like, you know, you and Tom have a lot in common. And I was like, yeah, I followed what's going on here. But that night, Tom came and sat right next to me during cards and like laughed at all my jokes. And throughout the week, the crew kept trying to like push him towards me, and we're like, oh, Tom, do you want to date Skylar? And he's like, I don't know, because he thought I liked Hoppy. But every moment Hoppy could, like, I had these huge sunglasses on, I'd be staring at Tom working, and Hoppy would come and sit next to me, and he'd be like, dear diary, today I watched Tom working on the deck. And I'd just be like, shut it, Hoppy, while still like staring at Tom. So finally, by the end of this week, there's all these little things that happen, and I give Tom my number in case he needs to meet up with me at the Common Ground Fair, you know. And I make my middle name Danger, and he's like, you know, later he told me, he's like, oh, I just thought you were really flirty, and did that with everyone. I was like, I don't put my middle name as Danger in everyone's phone. And then Friday, I get off the boat because I have to go pick up my dog in Portland. My friend had been taking care of her, and Dennis knew about it, and we like hop off the boat as we pull right into port, and Tom is sitting there at the dock like with the lines, and he looks at me like he's never gonna see me again, and I just play it real cool, and I'm like, what? And I like walk off, didn't look back. 3 hours later, I got a text message, and I'm driving back with my dog in the car, and I go, Millie, yes, I got one. So, in the interest of time, we ended up hanging out in the fair. And then the next day, the Sunday, I had a radio show, and I had asked him to listen to it. And we're like having this text conversation during my radio show, and he can't seem to find a radio. And I was like, what idiot can't find a radio in this day and age? And I was like, well, I'll reenact it for you later, because he missed it. He's like, well, how about tonight? And I was like, shit. But I go on this wonderful date with Tom under the clips that was happening up on Mount Batty. It was very romantic. And a little over a year later, we got married. And that is the end of this story.